Hey guys, Lech here. Part 2 of my Sauna build. Today we're going to start framing everything out. We're going to start with the walls, and we're going to do this the right way, like you would frame a house, a shed, or anything else. We're going to do everything 16 on center and so on. So I'm going to show you guys how to build a wall from scratch. I'm going to show you guys how to measure 16 on center and all those little things, so you know exactly what to do when you start your own build. We're going to start with the front wall here, and I'll walk you guys through the measurements. And like I mentioned in the last video, at the end of the video, I'll talk about everything I used, how much lumber, what it should cost you, and so on, so you can estimate your own build. So let's get started. So as I originally mentioned, I got rough cut lumber, so I actually got it cut to size how I wanted it. The only things you have to do with buying rough cut lumber from a sawmill, they always give you everything longer and the ends aren't flush, so you have to cut your ends nice and flush, and then you have to just pick the length you want and so on. Standard format 2x4s. I'm actually using actual 2, but not by 4, but actual 2 by actual 3. So this is actually 3 inches, and this is actually 2 inches wide, as opposed to 3.5 and 1.5 for a standard 2x4. But the idea for spacing everything out will be actually the same. So the one thing I want to show you guys, because when I start doing these walls, I'm not going to be going to the edge like you normally would start a wall build, right? I'm going to be putting 6-inch columns on the ends of the sauna, just to make it look cool, honestly. So I am leaving a 4-inch space at the edges, so the 6-inch beams will stick out 2 inches. I'm gonna have 1-inch walls on the outside of the 2x4s. That's why, and this will just give it a cool effect. At least that's what I'm hoping for. So all my walls are gonna start 4 inches in, and then I'll put the beams on and connect to it. So don't get confused when I'm showing you guys why am I not going to the edge. Normally you would just frame it right to the edge. The other wall will connect to it flush, just like that. But let's get this wall built, which I'll show you guys right now, and move on to the next. All right guys, I got my top and bottom plates 2x4 beams ready for measuring 16 on center. And the way we are going to do this is basically you're going to go flush wherever your wall are and line it up nice and flush. Make sure the top plate and the bottom plate are nice and even over here. And we're going to drag our tape measure across, and then we're going to measure 16 on center, which I'll show you guys now. And in a second I'll tell you guys why we do the 16 on center. One of the reasons being, it's basically like a national code, at least here in the US, for standard building codes. So first I'm going to show you the small section, and then I'll show you guys the overall look. Basically, you're taking your tape measure, make sure it's snug, drag it across all the way to the end if you wish, and now we start measuring. So when you have your walls, I'm going to start with a regular 2x4, not the 2 by the actual true 2x4, because it's going to confuse you guys, but a standard 2x4, which is basically 1.5 inches wide, right? So this will be your wall right here. So we know you have a plate here already, so that's the end of your wall. Now we have to measure 16 in center from the edge here, not from the end of the board, because this is the beginning. And the way we do this, you go to the 16-inch mark, and you don't mark it at 16. That is not a 16 on center. 60 on center means that the center of the 2x4, which is right here down the middle, 0.75 from each side, is the center. So that's where you want to be. So 0.75 to the left will be 15.25. So we're making a mark 15.25, and then we're going to do this all the way across and so on, which I'll show you guys in a second. But once you make your mark 15.25, you can take your square, mark both beams, so basically you get a top and bottom nice and even. You don't have to do it individually, and just put an X here. The X means that's where your 2x4 will sit. So now when we drop our 2x4s like this, the middle of the 2x4 will be 16 on center, and it's 0.75 from each side. Now we can move on and show you guys the rest. And there you go guys, we all marked now, 16 on center for every 2x4 that's going to go on our wall. We got markings, we know exactly where it's going to go, all the way to the end. And obviously over here it's not going to match up because it depends on the length of your wall. And except the reason for the national code that everything's 16 on center, let me show you guys exactly how it works and why. All right guys, so check it out. Let's say we just did our wall, we lined it all up, and look at that, 16 on center, 16 on center, 16 on center. And if you notice, this ends in the middle of the beam. So now, I was to put, this is a 4-foot board. I was gonna put this flush with the end. And right here, as you see, it drops in the middle of the beam. And this is so you can connect the next piece next to it. Same with sheetrock, plywood, and so on. This is how I did the flooring here. If you guys notice, these are 4-foot wide sheets of plywood. And I measured my 2x6s on the bottom, 16 on center. So center is right here. This is the mark I made. And you see the two are connecting and both are sitting on it. So you can screw it down nice and tight. So that's one reason. The other reason is obviously insulation. The insulation is made to fit in the space. And which is 14.5 inches. And that's standard insulation sizing. First, always, I had this question in my last video, and the first piece, since you're starting off the wall, it's not gonna measure up correctly like the other ones do. So this is not 16 on center if you're talking about the wall, but the reason is you're not starting from the middle of the stud, you are starting from the end of the wall. If you go to the end of the wall, now you're 16. If you start from the middle of the stud, you're not. That's why the first measurement seems a little off. Question comes up. Same with the spacing, that's going to be a little off for insulation, but everything else will be even 16, unless you go outside of the 2x4, then obviously you are bigger. So that's really the whole 16 on center spiel. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys too much. Now we do the wall. I showed you guys the video how to do this with standard 2x4s, which actually are 1.5 inches wide, as that will be the standard building that most people will be doing. But as I mentioned, I have true 2x4s or true 2x3s, meaning they're actually 2 inches wide. So when I'm making my marks, I'm actually not going 7.75 back or 3/4 of an inch. I'm actually going a full inch back because this is 2 inches wide. So I would be going back to the 15 mark, and my 2x4 will go all the way up to 17 because it's 2 inches. So the process will be the same. Any true 4x6, 4x4, 4x8, and so lumber will still line up. As you see, you're just covering more area with the true 2x4 instead of the standard 2x4. So that's the only difference with that. So that's how I'm actually going to measure my stuff out. But even if I left it like this, I would still be covered. I just wouldn't be perfectly in the middle of the true 2-inch beam. That's it. All right, so now to the wall. I got my beams cut. I cut them to 88 inches. The reason is I want to be about 8 feet tall max in the front, and these guys are about 2 inches tall. So it's going to be 1 on the bottom and 2 on top. And plus the beams, that's almost 8 feet already. I don't want to go too high. And then the back section, I'm probably going to do a foot lower so we have a nice slant for the roof. So I'm going to line up the bottom top boards around the 2x4 beams we just cut and get it all together, and let me show you guys how. We got a total of 10 beams for this wall. Line them all up, and then this is going to be my top. The reason I have 2 pieces because obviously I don't have a beam long enough to go all the way around. Where we marked our 16 on center markings towards the beams, so now we can line them up nice over here. So that's the idea. We're going to staple down our bottom, nail down our bottom first, then we'll do the top. So we are gonna line all these up. This one obviously you want flush at the end here, and then as we did a 16 on center markings, we are dropping the 2x4 right on the line. It's going over the X, and we're gonna do this for every one, and then we nail it down. Once we finish this side, we're gonna do the same thing on this end. So we're gonna grab our nail gun. Make sure you have safety glasses on. You don't want any wood splintering back at you. I got a Milwaukee here. This is the 22-degree framing nail gun. It's a beast. I love this thing. I already used it for a couple projects. So recommend it. That whole review on it, if you want to check that out, I'll put a link below. But we're gonna line this up basically, make sure everything's even. And for now, just hit over a couple nails. Now we can go to the top. So now with the top portion, same idea. We already have the beams matching the bottom beam, so all we know, we got to go over the X right by the line. All our 2x4s, line them up and nail it down. And there we go, guys. Our wall is all framed out now. Now all we gotta do is pop it up, which is pretty easy when you have 2 people, but it's also manageable with 1. So let me show you guys how. So since we do have this in 2 pieces, you know, it's gonna be a little annoying doing it myself. It's gonna be moving around. Normally you would put the extra 2x4 beam on top once you have your walls up. But I'm going to do this now to make my life easier. You just want to make sure they're all even. So, just going to put a couple nails. And now to hold it all together. And then we're going to do the same thing with that little piece right over here. Shove the full piece here. So I just cut a piece exactly of the wood here, and I'm just gonna put this all together. Now we can pop our wall up. So this is not a big wall to lift up, but you are doing it yourself, so probably don't need this, but just for the heck of it, extra safety, we'll put these beams here and one over there. So when I lift the wall, it doesn't slide off here. And I'm just going to also make sure that I'm flush. Also going to connect this support beam here, so when I have my wall up, this can hold it in place for me. I'm going to pop one in right now. Now I'm just going to lift the wall up, get it to place. Go nice and flush against the 2x4s I just put in. Now I'm going to use this, hold it in place so I can nail it down. But before I do that, I want to do some approximate leveling. I'm going to level this out, show you guys from this side. was holding my wall. I can put another piece on this end as well. And there we go. Our wall is all up. Now we just gotta nail it in. We can remove these 2x4s in a second. Get us all nailed down and so on. And as you guys can see, I left my space here for the big beams I want to put at the edges. Obviously, if you're not doing this, you will just have the wall flush against the edge over here. That's why that's there. Normally that wouldn't be like that, but I'm going to be putting 6x6s there to have at the corner of each of the walls. And it's the same thing here. That's why it's not to the end. Just make sure you have it all flush. So you work your one from one end, and you start nailing down towards this end, so you can pull the wall flush with the edge. Once I get my other walls up, I'll put a few more nails in there, make sure it's all secure. And screw it down, you can screw it down as well. But that's basically it. So that's it. Our wall is up now. Now what we're going to do is start working on the side walls. This one and the one back there, and then the back wall last. So I'll get that assembled and I'll show you guys how to connect the two walls together. And remember, if you're not using doing these poles at the ends like me, you'll be flush against the edge over there, and the two walls will just connect to each other. You would have two 2x4s sitting here next to each other as well, not just one at the edges for extra support, but we'll go through that as the build goes on. But I'm gonna get a second wall ready, and then I'll probably have to get my big beam ready as well, so we can connect all that together. These walls will be lower in the front one, as this is the high point, probably a foot lower, and the side walls will have to be the same height as the back wall, as you know, they gotta match out in the back, and I'm not doing no angled 2x4 wall building. So let's get it done. So for the back wall, I'm going about 10 inches to a foot lower. So since I cut my previous 2x4s for the wall studs at 88 inches, I'm cutting these at 78. Then you're gonna have plus 6 inches for the true 2x3 2x4s, because 2 on top, 1 on the bottom. And then worst case, if I want to make this higher or the back even higher, I'll just throw another 2x4 on top. So that's what we're gonna do. 78, 10 inches lower. That should give us a good enough slant for the roof. Alrighty, so we got everything cut. We got a 16 center already measured out. And we got 7 studs total going for the side wall, 8-foot wall. But remember, I'm not going end to end. And 78-inch studs as opposed to 88 in the front. So let's assemble it, put it all together, and then we can connect the two walls together and move on to the back. that side wall up. Let's see what we do here now. So like I already mentioned, these are not flush against each other because we are putting a 6x6 beam here for show, and just to make it solid and look cool. So the walls are going to connect to that. Normally you would have two 2x4s, two 2x4s together, and they will be sitting flush against each other in the corner here. And now time for the back wall. All pre-cut. Just got it nailed together and pop it up again. Alrighty, we got our back wall up. And I realized I gotta leave some space in up here for the second 2x4 because I want it overlapping the 6x6. So everything's more solid of a connection unless I run another one on top as well. Also another trick I did, since I'm not putting the beams up yet, I just stapled a couple 2x4s together. I'm just holding it like this. It's basically one space inside because that's the inside boards that are going to be flush here. So that's how I'm holding the corners for now. And the bottom, I didn't just go flush with the edge, as I want to make sure we're even on the inside. So what I did is I measured from this beam to this beam all across as I was stapling the nail in the wall down to make sure that it's the same distance everywhere. So one more wall to go, and we'll see what's next. So now this final wall, we gotta mark where our pipes are. So I measured it out and marked it here and here, and we're gonna drill the holes in the 2x4 so we can run the cables and so on through it. I might even run a bit of liquid nails here to seal this section off, but as this will be the exposing wall to the deck here, just for the heck of it. And there we go. All set. Now we can put the wall up. And there we go, the last wall is up. The same trick here with these for now, until we put the big beams in. I did put some liquid nails on the edge here, all the way up to the door, because I'm probably going to cut this out for the doors. Or not, we'll see. But this will be the entrance. Now we just got to put a divider in here, between the sauna and the room, changing room, or whatever that will be, storage. And then roof rafters are next. First I gotta get those beams. We got the big boy beams ready. Now we just gotta cut them, put them up, and also figure out how to do it over here and what height we're gonna need to be level with this. So for the 6x6 posts that are gonna go on the ends here, cut them even, burnt them, because I'm planning to give it the finished burn look anyway, but also just extra protection I feel like. And then I'm gonna coat it in this good stuff, as this will be outdoors and this is gonna be probably covered because I want to go deep into there. I might cut out, as you see here, 4.5 inch indent up here, so the bottom can drop in here and then the rest will sit up top here. So we'll give that a go like that, and then the deck boards will go around it, but I want to seal all this off so no water gets in there and still have it protected as it will be under the deck. And this is the idea. We'll sit right in there. So the pressure will be on this, but then this will be a more secure spot, and a few bolts on the sides for extra, probably some liquid nails or something, and bam. Alright guys, so for the gazebo support beams that are going to run across the front and the back, I was thinking the 2x6, but I'm going with the 4x4. I have them, so I'm going to use them. So they're going to run across here. But I want to flush with the second 2x4 on top of there because I don't want to go any higher. So I'm going to be this beat up piece here that I have on saving it. I'm going to cut that halfway, so I have one section is a 2x4 basically thickness. And then we'll also sit on this 6x6 beam here. And then somehow I'll splice it to the 6x6 beams that are going to sit in that corner right there. And there we go. And that will slip on right there and then go over. And you're not cutting a true 6x6 with a 6.5 inch circular. So even if you go around each side, so to get to the middle, I'm using this. There we go. And here's a quick test fit of my vision. I don't know, I think it's gonna look pretty cool. And then outside beams will go against that. I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but I'm giving everything a burnt look outside. I'll preserve the wood before I stain it. Alrighty guys, so I got the big beams prepared. Give it a little burn for now. All cut to size. Now we're gonna put them up. So I'll show you guys how I do the first one, and then I'll get the rest done. So all the walls are still flexible, so we're gonna level it all out as we put everything up. But for now, we're just gonna make sure we're snug in here, snug in there. I want 1 inch, I'll show you guys in a second, 1 inch inside on each side of the beam, because that's how I designed it to go in there. So we'll just snug it in, put a couple nails to hold it, and I'll give you guys a close-up. So basically, mark myself an inch on each side here, line this up, and now we're just gonna shave a few more nails, maybe some screws even to like really pull it together well. And that's really it for now. And as you notice, I left 2x4 width on top as that 2x4 that I cut with this section will sit right on it. And I'm doing the same for the back. The second level of 2x4s will go over. The big beam will be flush with this. Here we go. 1 down, 3 to go. Doing the same idea on these ends where there's no gazebo, so the roof sticks out about a foot. So the rafters could sit on top of that. Same in the back over there. Okay, so the wall's almost done. We just got one more left, which is the one inside separating the sauna room and the changing room. So we gotta cut top and bottom beam again, except this wall we're not gonna be constructing on the floor and popping it up. We're just gonna build it up from as it stands here. So we're gonna add extra support beams on the sides here where the wall's gonna connect. So you want 2 2x4s on each end here, and 1 here too. And we'll cut our bottom beam. We're gonna put the side beams support, drop the top one on top, and then do the inside beams. So I'll do that, I'll show you guys how it looks. So for the bottom stud, make sure that you are even distance from the walls on both sides, so everything matches up later inside. I already marked my 16 center marks, except I moved them over here a little bit as I wouldn't have a door in the middle here. But if you're not sure how to measure 16 center, I have a link below to do that, so definitely check that out. And then I also put up extra support studs here, as we have a wall connecting here, so you want 2 2x4s on the sides. And then these are the side ones that are gonna go right against here, and the one over there. Then we put the top, and then we do the inside studs. Let's get it done. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, lower wall, higher wall. We're making the wall the height of the lower wall, as otherwise it will affect this end when we start doing the roof. So, you know, you pull it in after later. So let's get the side studs in first. Level it. Even if your walls are level, you always want to double check. And work from bottom up or from top to bottom. That way, if your 2x4 is a little crooked, you can even it out as you nail it down or screw it down. We can get our top stud on top. We're not going to mount the top stud like that. I was thinking to overlap in here, but we have a second layer beam. I want to have two beams here. So we actually want the bottom stud to be level in this instead of putting from the bottom. So we're going to trim these up here and drop it right there. You can do it the other way, but it will be just easier this way. Alright, so now we're going to pop on our top beam, first top beam. So that's going to be level with the back wall, and then we're going to have one going over it at the end. So let's pop this on. And the walls will be coming apart a little bit. So staple one in first, then pull it together and staple that in together so you don't have any spacing and unevenness. So I'm going to go flush here first. Pull this wall all the way in. Now we can pop in our studs. And after that, we're going to get it from the top here. We can put the top beam on. Alrighty, so now we can frame out the studs. And remember, we measured a 16 center mark, so it should be easy to go from top to bottom. But you can also, you know, as long as you have your bottom marked, just use the level to make sure all the studs are straight. That is, if your 2x4s are actually straight. But let's pop them in, and then we can finish up. Measure right. Usually when you staple in a screw and a stud, you don't do it flush, because the second you push it in, it's going to move the stud over. So I always leave about 1/4 inch back to me. So when I hit it, it pushes it back in, and then if I need to, I can give it a little tap with the hammer to even it out. Same with the sides. Technically, you can also hit this from the top, but no difference really. Once you're at the top, level it. So good now. All we gotta do is go to the top, and the wall is done. This beam is going to overlap the wall. And like before, start from one and work your way down so you have them nice and flush with each other. Need a few more nails, but that's really it. Wall is solid. We've got a space for the door. Left the space at least 1 2x4 all around, so you have enough to build the frame for the door and stuff like that. Easier to work with. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out my channel for the whole sauna build, for this whole project, other cool how-to videos. Please subscribe, follow. Thanks so much, guys.